Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sanctum. As you can see here before you, we're going to be taking a trip back to those glorious days when TV terror ruled the airwaves. So get down next to Mom or Dad's legs, build yourself a pillow fort, turn on that floor model TV set and let it warm up, and get prepared to hide behind the cushions as we explore the made-for-TV horror film, Gargoyles. In a little episode I like to call Made for TV Toys of Terror. Now, there's not a kid that didn't grow up during the 70s and 80s that wasn't terrified by a made-for-TV movie. And I'm sure some of those kids grew up having traumatic memories of the movie Gargoyles. I know I'm one of them. Gargoyles first aired on CBS on November 21st, 1972. Now, I didn't see it at that time, I was quite young. But I did catch it years later on syndication one Saturday afternoon on the 4 o'clock movie. And it scared the living crap out of me. And it stuck with me all these years. And it really deserves a place in the pantheon of made-for-TV horror movies / creature features. Needs to be right up there with The Night Stalker and Trilogy of Terror and all those other cool made-for-TV horror movies. Gargoyles is the perfect blend of everything that makes a cool creature feature. It's shot on location in the New Mexico desert, clocks in at about 72 minutes. It's got great practical effects and stunts, and it has fantastic makeup, which was some of the earliest work by Stan Winston. This is Vincent Price. Sadly, I did not star in the movie Gargoyles. Gargoyles. What a ridiculous word. Sounds like something Jerry Lewis would shout in one of his films. Gargoyles! What a terrible actor. Terrible man, too. But he was always nice to me. Film in a nutshell involves Cornell Wilde, who was from The Naked Prey, playing this sort of pop psychologist / demonologist, kind of like an early version of Etta Lorraine Warren. He writes these coffee table sized books for the masses to bring demonology and supernatural type things to the public at large, which again, that stuff was very popular in the 70s. We've talked about that before. Books like The Chariots of God or the Time Life books on supernatural beings and creatures, the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and UFOs and things along those lines. And he's accompanied by his daughter, Jennifer Salt, who had starred a few years earlier in Brian De Palma's Sisters. She spends most of the movie dressed in this sort of stark white halter top, which of course was also another reason I was riveted to the screen at the time as a kid. Also filling out roles in the film are Grayson Hall from Dark Shadows. She's the drunken proprietor of the roadside hotel that everybody stays at, or motel, if you will. And then we've got Scott Glenn in an early role, and here is what is definitely a 70s trope, as the leader of the local dirt bike / motorbike gang. I mean, there is nothing more 70s than dirt bikes and motorbikes. They seem to be everywhere in 70s and 80s movies, and then they just sort of faded away. You know, maybe that was for the best. And then we've also got the character actor Woodrow Chambliss, who's gonna show up in another movie we discuss later on down the line, The Devil's Reign. He's the proprietor of the roadside / seedy desert museum, type of place where you go in to see the world's largest ball of string or a two-headed calf, or maybe find an old mummified Fiji merman up on the shelf. And he's the one that sort of starts the story because he calls Cornell Wilde and his daughter out there to come take a look at these bones of what he says is a gargoyle that he found out in the desert. And then, of course, we've got the gargoyles themselves, and they are done by the effects work of Stan Winston. Very early work by Stan Winston. He, of course, is the special effects guru behind such films as Predator and Aliens and Jurassic Park, amongst others. And of course, the lead gargoyle, the figure we are looking at right here, is played in a sort of 1-2 punch a la Darth Vader with David Prowse and James Earl Jones. Inside the makeup and playing the character is the great actor Bernie Casey, who is a former football player turned actor And he's been in numerous movies. Most people probably know him from Revenge of the Nerds, but you probably know him if you're a big fan of made-for-TV movies. He was in Brian's Song, and he was also in the fantastic The Martian Chronicles miniseries. Now, he plays the gargoyle, but he is voiced by the great Vic Perrin. And if you grew up in the 60s, 70s, you know Vic Perrin. He is a voiceover artist slash character actor that has been in so many genre things. He is most well known, and well known to me, as the control voice from The Outer Limits, giving the sort of intro and outros to each episode. He also starred in a bunch of Star Trek episodes, notably as Nomad and Metron. He was Sinestro. He voiced Sinestro on The Challenge of the Super Friends. And he did numerous voices on Hanna-Barbera cartoons throughout the 60s and 70s. And he does a great job as the voice of the lead gargoyle here. And Vic Perrin is also the narrator of the film. He leads us off at the beginning in this sort of prologue.
The devil was once the most favored of the host of angels serving the Lord. But pride welled in his breast. He thought it unseemly for him to serve. The devil and his band of followers, who likewise suffered the sin of pride, were defeated in battle by the Lord and his host, and were banished to the outermost depths of hell, never to know the presence of the Lord or look on heaven again. Smarting with his wounds, but all the more swollen with pride, the devil cried out from the depths, "It is better to rule in hell than serve in heaven." The devil proclaimed what was lost in heaven would be gained on earth. He said, "My offspring, the gargoyles, will one day rule the Lord's works, earth and man." And so it came to pass that while man ruled on earth, the gargoyles waited, lurking, hidden from the light. Reborn every 600 years in man's reckoning of time, the gargoyles joined battle against man to gain dominion over the earth. In each coming, the gargoyles were nearly destroyed by men who flourished in greater numbers. Now it has been so many hundreds of years that it seems the ancient statues and paintings of gargoyles are just products of man's imagination. In this year, with man's thoughts turned toward the many ills he has brought upon himself, man has forgotten his most ancient adversary, the gargoyles.
So clearly the gargoyle is one of the iconic monsters from 1970s creature features. And if you're talking iconic monsters, there's no one better right now putting out iconic custom figures than Brentzdolz. And as you can see here, Brent did a version of the head gargoyle from the made-for-TV movie Gargoyles. Pretty much my entire budget of new dolls nowadays goes towards Brentzdolz, because Brent is putting out the type of stuff that I always wished they'd put out. He's really tapping into the movies and TV programs and properties that really hit a soft spot for me. I mean, an action figure from the movie Gargoyles, I have loved that movie since I was a kid. And now to have action figures from that film, it's just amazing. And they're great. I mean, Brent and his team have done a bang-up job as usual. Terrific sculpt as usual, really captures the essence of the character from the film. I love the eyes on this, the paint job on the eyes. It looks just like those silver contact lenses that Bernie Casey is wearing in the film. Got the fangs there, and he's got this demonic, devilish look. And that's what they went for with this particular gargoyle, is they were giving him, he's supposed to be one of Satan's army, so he has more of a demonic look to him. And I like that the paint job, it's got the quality of the makeup that Bernie Casey is wearing in the film. And it's got a greenish tone, but it's also got a little gray in there, almost to add to the quality that these things are statues, right? That gargoyles are very statuesque. Now, being a monster kid in the 70s and growing up in the 70s, of course, I read Famous Monsters and Fangoria. And looking at this has a very, I know now that it is Stan Winston, but it has a very Rick Baker-ish quality to it. You'd almost be led to believe that this could be the early work of Rick Baker. And looking at him right here close up, he looks a lot like one of the characters from the Star Wars Cantina scene, which Rick Baker did work on. And I think that character has since been cut out of the movie because Lucas thought it was too rubber monstery looking. When he sort of revamped all his films, he cut that out. But this is a terrific looking figure, and Stan Winston did some fantastic work on this. It's a shame he died far too young. He really was one of the last amazing practical effects guys. I mean, Rick Baker's still around, Tom Savini, all those guys, Dick Smith. I grew up knowing them by name and just loving their work, seeing it in the pages of Famous Monsters and Fangoria, and reading about the films they worked on and waiting to see, you know, what their monsters were going to look like in the movies that came out. Now he's got this cool gray furry neck collar here, and then he's in a, monster suit. He's got that reptilian suit, which is like he is that scaly body in the film. And he's got these, this gray fur. It was kind of interesting. Now, it's kind of hitting me now when I did it. Stan Winston worked on Jurassic Park, where the whole theory was that the dinosaurs were originally birds that became reptiles. And these gargoyles, in a way, have a very bird-like quality to them as well. That's what sort of the furry stuff around them is, as well as a reptilian quality. And, of course, he's got these cool gargoyle claws, a la the mole man or some type of creature. And then we go down, and he's got the fur around his feet, and he's got the feet. And again, the feet have sort of that grayish paint job quality to them, almost along the lines that this is a statue that could be hanging off some cathedral somewhere. And while we're on the subject of bird-like, we need to point out that he's got wings. He attached these fabric wings to the creature, which really adds to it. The makeup really holds up in the film, too. I think that's what gives the film sort of its eerie, creepy quality for me. It's the practical effects. It's the practical makeup. There's something that just feels so real about it. I know when you look back on it, you're like, oh, it's a guy in a monster suit. It seems so fake. But monster suit movies, if done right, have a very surreal, eerie quality about them. I mean, what's the ultimate man-in-suit monster movie? Creature from the Black Lagoon. That is an amazing makeup. It's an amazing suit. And those effects still hold up to this day when you see the Creature from the Black Lagoon. The first one, at least. The other ones, there's sort of that law of diminishing returns. They're still great. But that first Creature from the Black Lagoon, the effects in that are amazing. The makeup effects in that, particularly. And I'd say the same goes for Gargoyles here. I mean, watching this, I rewatched it prior to doing this episode. And I really think that the effects hold up. Now, there's not just one gargoyle in the movie. I mean, after all, the movie's called Gargoyles, not Gargoyle. And Winston and his crew create a great group of creatures in this film. Some of the gargoyles are very reptilian looking. Others have beaks and are bird-like and covered in fur and feathers. And then some straight out look like something that stepped off a UFO out of a 1950s movie. And watching this film again, there's no doubt that these were the precursors to the Sleestaks from Sid and Marty Krofft's Land of the Lost. So, as there is more than one gargoyle in the film, there is more than one gargoyle in the Brentzdolz collection. And here is an early attempt at making a gargoyle action figure from Brentzdolz. I wouldn't call it a prototype, it was just an early experiment. But it is still very cool. And here you have, he's got these silver eyes, much like the Bernie Casey gargoyle. He's got the horns. Paint job's a little different, a little darker. He's still got the ridge on the forehead. The horns are a little shorter. And he's got this sort of hairdo with the pointy ears there. And Brent gave him wings. And he's got him dressed in this cool leather vest, black pants, and black boots. So to me, he's kind of this cool custom figure that, you could throw him in with the Space 1999 display or with the Star Trek display, the Star Trek action figures, or he fits right in as sort of a member of an alternate gargoyle tribe that's a bit more advanced than the one we see in the film here. And looking at this sculpt here, I noticed that he looks a lot like Calibus from Clash of the Titans. I was just talking to Brent the other day when I was preparing for this episode, and I was telling him, you should think of making a Clash of the Titans custom action figure of Calibus. That would definitely sell. I mean, I know for sure I would buy one. And he's made some really cool, interesting stuff lately, and I've bought a lot of it. And I'll certainly be showcasing it in future episodes. We have a lot of episodes coming up with some more great Brentzdolz. Now, behind the lead gargoyle there is my original DVD of the film Gargoyles. This is the one I bought many, many years ago so that I could revisit the movie. And it was pretty hard to come by because the film was out of print at that time, and I had to track this down on eBay. It was a used copy. But it's in good condition. It's a good movie. I recently rewatched it the other night. I have since upgraded to one of the newer DVDs. But as you see here, it is a terrifying tale of ancient evil unfolds as anthropologist Mercer Bailey and his daughter battle to save the Earth from being taken over by a clan of grotesque, demon-like gargoyles they've discovered living in the Arizona desert. New Mexico, actually. Award-winning special effects provided by Stan Winston, Jurassic Park, Terminator 2, and Milt Rice, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1956, and The Magic Sword. Note, mastered from the longer European theatrical version. That was quite common, actually. They would release made-for-TV movies theatrically in Europe or abroad, and they would do quite well. FYI, Bernie Casey might be hard to recognize as the head gargoyle under all that makeup. And also watch for Richard Mall as Goliath, one of the other gargoyles. Now that's interesting. So I did not know that Richard Mall was in the movie. This is the first that I'm actually hearing of it from reading the back description of this DVD. All right, I think I know who Richard Mall is now that I'm reading that, but be that as it may, I would like to give this copy of Gargoyles away to one of my loyal viewers. All you have to do is leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me one of your favorite made-for-TV horror movies. One of your favorite made-for-TV movies. Tell me what you enjoyed about Gargoyles. Tell me anything. Just leave me a comment below. Say that you want to be entered in the Gargoyles giveaway. About a week from now, after this episode airs, I will throw all the names into a hat or a half skull or a Frankenstein head or something I've got sitting around here. Perhaps an old shoe. And I will draw those names out, and I will pick a winner, and then I will mail this used DVD off to you free of charge so you can be traumatized and enjoy the movie Gargoyles. And see for yourself if you can pick out Richard Mall as Goliath. Now I'm going to tell you why I was inspired to do this pay it forward thing. And I know it's not much, it's a used DVD, but it's a great movie and it's free. And I'm going to do some more giveaways down the line. I've got some stuff here in the Sanctum building up, doubles of things and things that I just keep tripping over and don't need anymore. And I figure I'd just pass them along to people that might enjoy them. But that's beside the point. There's a reason I'm doing this. There is another fellow YouTuber, fellow traveler, if you will, fellow lover and curator of all these great nostalgic memories from the 70s. And his name is Johnny Shedrick. And he has his own YouTube channel called MIB Master Toy Museum 1979. And he showcases toys. He keeps all his toys mint in box. And he's got a great channel. And about a month or so ago, he had a giveaway on his channel, a free pay it forward giveaway. And I happened to win it. It was a Topps Mego mummy from the Hammer film The Mummy with Christopher Lee. And if you watch The Sanctum, you know that I love Hammer, and you know that I love The Mummy. So I was ecstatic to get this. And I will showcase it in an episode down the line. And I'd like to publicly thank Johnny here. I mean, I've thanked him before, but I'd like to outright thank him again for sending that to me and having the giveaway. So I'm going to have some giveaways down the line and pass some things along to people as I can. And check out Johnny Shedrick's MIB Master Toy Collector 1979. It's a fantastic channel. He's got a lot of great stuff on there. I cannot recommend it more. He's amazing. So while we're talking about mint in package, let's take a look at the package that this came in. You've been looking at it for probably the whole episode. This is the back of the clamshell case, and it is clearly the gargoyles from the film. Gargoyles, they're coming for you. And you can see Now that's the guy that I think is Richard Mall. The only thing that's got me wondering is they said that his name is Goliath. And Goliath is one of the gargoyles from the cartoon series, I believe. There's a gargoyle named Goliath. There's the gargoyle's mate. And here are some of the other gargoyle. See, I've been saying gargoyles too much. I'm gargling on gargoyles. There is one of the other gargoyles. It seems like sort of an alien. And here's one of the lizard-like ones. Reptilian ones. But here's the front of the... What? Another gargoyle? Why, Brentzdolz, what have you done? Made me spend money is what he's made me do. So here is the gargoyle's mate. She plays Bernie Casey's mate in the film. And you can see she's covered in this fur/feathers. Got her tiny little feet there. And another great sculpt. This one's more of a bird-like one, right? It's got the sort of beak, the turtle snout, or the bird-like beak. There's sort of this mane around her. She's got the Spock ears. And then what I like here is you've got this cracked forehead, this cracked skin on the head, which could indicate, reptilian scales or perhaps cracked stone, like a stone gargoyle. And I like the way the eyes kind of always follow you, like one of those paintings in a haunted house. The gargoyle. And she's actually one of these sympathetic characters in the film. Now, no wings on this one, but I think because of the fur, it would be a tough one to put wings on. She is winged, because the whole point in the movie is that the winged gargoyles are the ones that can breed. The other gargoyles are along the lines of perhaps worker ants or drones, and they just do the labor or the hard work. So I've got a gaggle of gargoyles now, thanks to Brent. And I really think that he should take a look at the film and take a look at some of the other gargoyles in the film, because he could have a whole line of the gargoyles in the movie. I would certainly buy them. I think other people would buy them. Now, if you want to purchase any of these gargoyles, I don't think the early version is available. Again, that was something he was experimenting with. I think he's still got the female and the Bernie Casey gargoyle available. He also had a 14-inch version of the lead gargoyle, which is... it's something I'm going to have to get, because it is just very, very cool. And I'm an OCD completist about these things, so I've got to have the 14-inch one. So Brent, if you're listening and you're watching this episode, or if you've made it this far, make some more gargoyles. Make some of the other gargoyles from the movie. So back to the plot of the film. Cornell Wilde and his daughter drive out to the roadside museum to take a look at this alleged gargoyle skeleton that Willie has. And of course they're skeptical at first, but they choose to hear him out and listen to his story. So while he's telling the story about this gargoyle skeleton, the barn they're in is attacked by a gargoyle. And of course Willie dies, I guess. He falls to the ground and a lantern falls on his legs, and Cornell Wilde is like, he's dead, leave him. He doesn't even try and help him. He grabs the skull, runs out of the barn. And the barn, of course, in typical 70s fashion, doesn't just burn. It goes up in an inferno and then explodes. And that's literally the first 10 minutes of the movie. The movie is just gangbusters the whole way through. There's not a lot of dead time in this movie. And that's what makes it fun. You're just in it, and you suspend your disbelief, and you go into this world, and you just come along for the ride. So the gargoyles stalk them from this point forward, and eventually Jennifer Salt is kidnapped by the lead gargoyle and brought back to his lair. Because like any good 50s or 60s horror movie, the creature cannot resist a beautiful woman. And his wife becomes a bit jealous, and he has Jennifer Salt try and teach him how to read, and then read to him from sort of this old, erotic, gothic literature.
I had no will of my own, but did let the incubus do his will until I was driven mad.
Diane, don't worry. I have no need for you humans. I am merely curious.
But surprisingly enough, it all works. Like any good horror movie, if you suspend your disbelief and just go along for the ride and enter into the mentality of the film, you're going to have a good time. You're going to enjoy it, and you're going to have a few scares as well. The film was directed by Bill Norton, who was only 29 years old at the time, and he was facing any problem that an exploitation-style filmmaker would face. This was a made-for-TV movie, and had a low budget and a quick shooting time. And it was shot on location. And some of the stuff he did, necessity is the mother of invention, actually works. It's a la Jaws. He couldn't show the gargoyles all the time, he thought. So there's a lot of shots of POV shots of the gargoyles looking on, or a hand moving out of a bush, or things along those lines. And they are creepy. But when you do see the gargoyle, and I think the choice to show the gargoyles makes it more creepy because of the practical effects and the way he shoots it. When he shoots the gargoyles are always moving at sort of a half speed or slow motion. And he says he did this because he thought that they looked too much like men in suits when they were walking around, so he slowed it down a bit. And it works. It gives the film this sort of surreal, nightmarish quality. And anytime the gargoyles show up, they're moving in this weird, slow fashion, and the soundtrack, the music that's playing, is creepy as hell. And the film has some very effective scary scenes. Like I said, the way the gargoyles move is very unsettling. There's a scene where the station wagon that they're fleeing from Willie's barn in is attacked by a gargoyle, and that's pretty terrifying. And it's got some great practical stunt work in it as well. And then, of course, there is the infamous scene when Cornell Wilde is lying in his bed in the motel, and he hears some grunts and some noises, and he looks to the foot of his bed, and peering up over the foot of his bed is a gargoyle. There's...
Diana, run!
And then there's just the whole aspect of Bernie Casey. When he is on screen, between the makeup effect and the voice that Vic Perrin gives him, and they modulate Vic Perrin's voice so that the gargoyle has this creepy, otherworldly quality to his voice. And one of the things I notice is when he has Jennifer Salt in the room, I don't know how he knows her name, but he always refers to her as Diana.
Diana!
Now, if my friend Russell James is listening, he'll be glad to know that I really enjoyed the night photography in this film. They do a great job of shooting at night. Nothing seems too dark, but it does seem like everything is taking place at night, yet you can see everything clearly. And it is effective. And what's even more effective sometimes is when you see the gargoyles in the light of day. There's something really unsettling about that as well. And the film also has its share of pretty intense violence and gore for a made-for-TV movie. There's one scene in particular where one of the characters is found hanging upside down from a pole that scared the crap out of me as a kid, gave me nightmares. Now, before I go, I'd like to give one more shout out here. If you liked this episode and you want to learn more about made-for-TV movies, I highly recommend you check out the book, Are You in the House Alone? Growing Up with Gargoyles, Giant Turtles, Valerie Harper, The Cold War, Stephen King, and Co-ed Call Girls. A TV Movie Compendium, 1964 to 1999. Edited by Amanda Reyes. This is a fantastic book, and of course I consulted it prior to doing this episode just to brush up a little bit. But I love this book, and I love all the things that they cover in here, and I cannot recommend it more. And Amanda Reyes also has a podcast called Made for TV Mayhem, which I am a longtime listener of. And I recommend you check out that podcast as well, because they cover a lot of things that Sanctum viewers would enjoy and that I enjoy. Check out Made for TV Mayhem, wherever your local podcasts are streamed, dropped, aired, found, downloaded. I don't know. I'm talking about things from the 1970s. Don't ask me about technology! What? So, as usual, I will leave all the vital information regarding Brentzdolz, Made for TV Mayhem, and any other things I may have discussed in this episode in the description below. Please leave me a comment so that you can be entered in the free used DVD giveaway. So be sure to check back in with the Sanctum soon. You never know what we'll be giving away next, or who might show up. So check your local listings, because no one knows when an episode of the Sanctum will air. Not even me! What's that noise?
Diana!
No. My name is not Diana. Dr. Durant.
No.
Not my real name. YouTube moniker. Character from the black hole. No. Those are comic books. There's no erotic incubus stories in there.
Then you must teach me, Diana.
Walking beauty, my friends. Jody, what was that racket? Dear God, what's happened? Jody, this is our chance for freedom. Go through his pockets. See if you can find the keys to the Prius. Hurry, fool!